money, 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 money. Crazy about my money. Money, 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 money. Crazy about my money. Money, money, money. Crazy about my money. Crazy about my money.
Greetings and blessings. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the podcast where I give you a behind the scenes view of owning and starting a successful commercial and office cleaning business. I'm your host, Marquise Page, the owner of K&M Cleaning Crew LLC, as well as the owner of K&M Marketing and Consulting. Today, I have a special episode for you guys, man. I want to kick off a series, just what you don't know when you start a business. I don't have a title for it just yet, but it's going to be a mini series, probably about 4 or 5 episodes. And today's episode is going to be nobody talks about the startup grind, what it really takes to launch a cleaning business. What we're going to focus on today is the unseen mental, emotional, and financial toll of starting out. Now, why is this powerful? That's because many people underestimate how much discipline, sacrifice, and self belief it takes to get those first 5 clients. And, we're going to talk about the isolation of starting a business alone, having to learn as you go, the fear of quitting your 9 to 5, and how to push through doubt and just keep showing up. Speaking of all those, man, I have a funny story. I remember when I first started my cleaning business. It was during the heart of coronavirus. Me, my wife, and my family, we were scared. My wife, she was going through breast cancer. And I remember growing up that I always knew that I wanted to start a business. I didn't know what I wanted to start, but I knew I wanted to start something. So this during the heart of the coronavirus, and we're scared. They put the fear out in the universe. And that's when I took that leap of faith because I saw that was a time, that was the great reset, so to speak. So, I purchased the course and I just went through the steps of the course. So, as I'm going through the steps of the course, I'm actually building my business up. But, while I'm doing that, like I said, I'm missing work because, like I said, it's the coronavirus and we're scared. So my boss finally tells me, hey, Marquise, if you miss one more day of work, hey, we're going to have to let you go. It's significant because, like I said earlier, my wife had breast cancer. So we had our health insurance through my employment. That's how we were going to health appointments and making sure that the kids' teeth were straight, their vision was straight. That's how we had our benefits. So, I had to make a decision. So when I started the business, I didn't have any commercial clients. I didn't know which way I wanted to go. I didn't know if I wanted to do residential, if I wanted to do commercial. When I was first starting out, I was hopping on jobs like TaskRabbit and Jobber, just to get some money to come through, for my business. But I ended up having to buy some leads. I ended up buying 5 leads for my business. And so I didn't think they were gonna come so fast. I bought the leads that Thursday. By Monday, they were sending me the details of some of the leads. So when I got the lead, it told me like, hey, they set the lead up to where I had to be at work during that time. So, I had to really make a decision. Me and my wife, we were into it at the time, but that was still my wife. I still love her. That was my baby. So, we sat down and we made it. I had let her know what was going on. Like, hey, babe, I got this opportunity for the business, but what my job said that, hey, if I miss another day, then they're gonna have to fire me. And so, she looked me dead in my eyes and she told me, man, chase your dreams, man. She said it's something that you always want to do. You've been talking about you want to own a business. And she was like, man, we'll get some more insurance. I'll get insurance another way. But she was like, man, go chase your dream. And I ended up going on that appointment. And this is God's plan, man. Like I said, I went through an outside, a third party representative. So When I got to the appointment, it was some apartments. They actually scheduled for some apartments that were close by me. And so when I saw the name, it looked familiar, but I didn't think nothing of it. You know, it was a 1 in a million shot. So when I get there, tell me why the person that they set the appointment for was my nephew's mother. So it was my cousin's it was my cousin's baby's mother. She was actually the director. She was the apartment manager over the office. And when she saw me, her eyes got big, like, Marquise, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I'm here for the appointment. And she like, you got a cleaning business? And that's how I got my one of my first commercial clients, one of my first serious commercial clients. You know, she saw that I was serious, and she saw that I had everything in order, my LLC. She saw that I came dressed to impress, and I had that fire in my eye, and she helped me. She went along. She just told me, "Hey, this is what I'm paying right now for my vendors. Hey, if you can match this, then hey, we'll go ahead and go with you." And so that's how it started, man. So, I just want to tell y'all that story, just some of the sacrifice that you may encounter. In entrepreneurship, you don't know what you don't know when you first start out. And when you first start out, it's just you. You booking the jobs, you doing the cleaning, you handling the invoices, you promoting on social media, you dealing with rejection. You start to question yourself more than once, especially when no one claps for you. Man, I can remember, a week when I passed out probably about 100 flies, 200 flies, tagged 2 to 3 shopping centers, and got a call from nobody. But that's just the price you pay when you go to school of hard knocks. I paid with experience. What could I have done better? Maybe I could have targeted my efforts a little bit more. Maybe it's all if it's not a I have a saying, if it's not a blessing, it's a lesson. So, even if the results don't go your way, there is always something to learn from a failed outcome. And then, when you start to dealing with fear, fear of failure hits hard. You worry about what people would think if you fail. You question whether you cut out for it. The pressure is 10 times when you're from a community that doesn't always see entrepreneurs. Let me tell you, fear doesn't mean that you're not ready. It means you're in the game. The same pressure. I got a saying. I got two sayings actually. My apologies for these country sayings, man. But I got a saying. I got two sayings that pertains to that. The same hot water the same hot water that soften the potato boiled the egg. You take that same hot water and you put two different foods in there, and you get two different outcomes. Meaning, all I'm saying is what you made of. It's not the conditions. And the same thing, the same pressure that makes charcoal can make a diamond. It's the same thing. It's the same principle. It's not about the conditions. It's about what you made of. And in order to grow a plant, you got to plant a seed. And when you plant a seed, you plant it in darkness. You plant it in dirt. You throwing dirt on it. Man. I could, man, say, don't get me started on preaching. We're gonna get into something else. I'm gonna turn into Ricky Rush, man. But man, let me get back into it. Your work life is crazy for pennies at first. Like I say, when I first started out, man, I was taking any job I could, man. You don't even understand. You just trying to get some income coming through your business account. Man, I was taking jobs out of TaskRabbit and Jobber. And with apps like that, don't get me wrong, that's just something to do when there's nothing to do, when you're on the schedule, when you don't have anything on the books. That's just like stay busy work. That's nothing where it's not enough meat on the bone where you could profit. Like you could be cleaning, you're pretty much working for about 23, $25 an hour. Or you may run into something where your first couple of jobs you may underprice them because you don't know what you're stepping into. So you may underprice, but you may have to over deliver. I can't tell you how many jobs where I've underpriced and I've had to take that loss. I still had to make sure the employees get paid. I still had to make sure the supplies. So when it comes to that bidding, you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful with that because you can lose your shirt and your shoes if you underprice your services. You might clean the whole building for $50 just to get a testimonial or just to get some marketing material, um, just of you cleaning in action so that you can show other business owners that you're serious. And if you're not taking before and after pictures of your work or before and after videos of your work, that's great marketing materials that you could sell yourself of you being in the field. But it's just part of the learning curve. It's not a life sentence. So, I know you're asking yourself after I said all that, like, why is the grind worth it? It's worth it because that uncomfortable phase, it teaches you grit, it teaches you systems, it teaches you self-belief. Every great business starts in the dirt. You just have to plant and water it daily. When I was starting my business, like I said, I had a job, and sometimes you just gotta put a brick, you just gotta do a brick a day, and you're gonna look up and you're gonna have a wall. Don't try to do everything at one time, especially when you have a job. Just small action steps, small deposits, they add up over time. But, and I always tell myself, if you can give your employers 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours out the day, why can't you give yourself an hour or two? I'm talking about for your future. When you're thinking of business, a lot of people are thinking of big business, and what people don't understand, business is family, business is legacy. We talking about Ford, we talking about Chevrolet, we're talking about Gucci, we're talking about Versace, we're talking about Tommy Hilfiger, we're talking about Polo. These are family last names that we have on our bodies and that we use every day. That's what I mean by legacy. And that's what I mean by Rome wasn't built in a day. Walmart wasn't the behemoth that it was first starting out. He went through his bumps and bruises. He actually got finessed at his building that he built up. He actually Sam Walton, he started off in a convenience store, and starting off brick by brick, building it up. And he signed a lease and he built it up so successful that that everywhere from across town was coming to his particular store. But he made a fatal mistake and he messed up on the lease of the building to where he built up the store, but when it was time to renew the lease, the owner saw how successful it was and he just took it back. So Sam Walton did all that work. I'm not gonna say for nothing because he got the experience out of it, he got the grit out of it, he got the belief that he could do it. And he said it himself, hey, if I could do it once, I could do it again. And then that's when he went to Bentonville, Arkansas, and the rest is history. Signed a 99-year lease to not make that same mistake again. And now we have Walmart. So that I just want to provide you with a small action step. Here's what I want you to do this week. Write down 3 reasons why you started your business. Then create a grind playlist. I'm talking music or podcasts that hype you up before every job. And then I want you to download my startup motivation toolkit that I'm going to provide for you. It includes affirmations and a printable daily goal sheet. If you're in that startup phase, keep going. You're not behind. You're in the middle of building something real. In the next episode, I'm going to show you how you don't need fancy gear or a big budget to start making money. Until then, remember, the grind is temporary, but the business that you're building is permanent. Again, I'm Marquise Page, owner of K&M Cleaning Crew, LLC, as well as the owner of K&M Marketing and Consulting. Thank you, and have a blessed day.